I believe the legislature ought to take a very hard look at the option of decertification of the 2020 Wisconsin presidential election.
The report Michael Gableman presents Tuesday does not list decertifying the election as a recommendation, but it does offer what legal experts say is a debunked roadmap. Vos has said for weeks he is still, quote, finalizing a new contract with Gableman. In a statement today, Vos thanks Gableman for this report, but makes no mention of his call for lawmakers to decertify, or at least look into decertifying the election. How comfortable are you with Mike Gableman 8 months into this investigation now saying you should consider decertifying the 2020 election?
I'm not.
I felt called to do justice.
Following the judge's order, emails related to Michael Gableman's Republican-ordered review of the 2020 election become public. They include numerous messages to and from Eric Cardall, a Minnesota lawyer who had sued to block certification of that election.
Now, this is clearly a conflict of interest here.
UW-Madison political science professor David Cannon says it all undercuts the idea Gableman's work is independent.
Pretty clearly, Gableman's investigation from the beginning has not been the type of objective investigation you would hope for from an outside counsel.
Cardall, who a D.C. judge referred for possible discipline over the lawsuit being frivolous, is open about his work with Gableman.
We work together collaboratively to collect the records, analyze them, and then present them in a useful way.
Cardall held a press conference last week with Ron Hoyer, one of Gableman's paid investigators, and 2 GOP lawmakers.
This is just the beginning. And we're going to take on election administration. There's so many other issues we could do.
The emails also include a lengthy message from a consultant advising Gableman on how to set up his rented Brookfield office. She notes he should have a refrigerator, as well as basic office supplies like pens and printer paper. The activist group, American Oversight, also obtained expense reports for Gableman's team in December and January. Besides a string of meal and even grocery expenses, they include another round of handwritten gas mileage reports. One of Gableman's trips was to Chippewa Falls on the same day he spoke at a Chippewa County GOP event.
Some of Gableman's trips were clearly political, like going to attend a county Republican event, Republican party event. That's not something taxpayers should be paying for.
Calls from Speaker Vos's office telling us that they're going to pick up our office equipment on April 26th.
Nearly 3 weeks after Mike Gableman makes those comments, we go to Brookfield Tuesday and learn our search for Gableman's office would have to branch out. The subpoenas Gableman issued last fall tell officials to go to 200 South Executive Drive. That's the building behind me, but the front desk says the Office of Special Counsel is no longer there and hasn't been for months. Last fall, Gableman signed sublease agreements sharing office space with the Thomas More Society and the firm of Eric Cardall, who had tried to block the 2020 election from being certified. Those papers show a different address, 155 Executive Drive, right across the street. While the office looks empty, someone comes to the door.
Is this the Office of Special Counsel? Who's asking?
Gableman has a $676,000 taxpayer-funded budget. The investigation will continue despite the amended contract running through April 30th. Speaker Robin Vos says Tuesday in a statement, quote, "We are grateful for Justice Gableman's offer to reduce his salary," adding, quote, "Our intention is to remain within the original budget." No response yet on what that new salary is. One day earlier, former President Donald Trump said, quote, "Anyone calling themselves a Republican in Wisconsin should support the continued investigation without interference."
Frankly, if Donald Trump actually paid any attention to what's going on here, he would recognize that Gableman is a con man, that he hasn't actually produced any evidence showing anything of interest.
Democrats say the review should end this month.
Are you with the Thomas More Society or the Cardall law firm?
I'm preferring not to answer any questions.
Okay, appreciate it. Is anyone here from the Office of Special Counsel that would be able to talk?
I'm not answering.
Is Zach here?
Thanks.
Just exactly who is in Gableman's office and for how much longer remains unclear. In Brookfield, AJ Bayapur, 27 News. This lawsuit specifically has to do with the first 2 months of Gableman's review, July and August of last summer. In court today, we learned Gableman spent some of that time leading the GOP election investigation out of a public library, and he admits to conducting work during that time on a personal email account and having deleted some of those records.
What I heard today is interesting.
Judge Valerie Bailey Wrin summarizes testimony provided Thursday by Mike Gableman. Liberal watchdog group American Oversight is challenging whether Speaker Robin Vos, who hired Gableman, followed open records laws. Gableman says before renting an office in Brookfield, he worked out of the New Berlin Library, deleting emails sent from a personal account.
If there was no open records request and it wasn't going to be useful to my report, then I would probably delete it.
Bailey Wynn also questions Gableman's productivity during those 2 months. Gableman says his initial focus was on unfounded claims the Chinese hacked voting machines. That's why he went to the Arizona cyber audit and Mike Lindell's symposium in South Dakota. Gableman said he was sidelined afterward with COVID.
Spend the next 2 weeks solidly in bed. So if you want to characterize it as no work, I guess you can.
Bailey Wynn finds she will not hold Vos in contempt because she does not believe records are being withheld.
At this point, whatever records may have been responsive are gone.
What will happen now is both sides will submit briefs making their case for what the court should do in response to the knowledge Gableman has deleted records and they will not be retrieved. It'll culminate in a hearing and a ruling scheduled for July 28th.
Taxpayers will be on the hook for nearly $100,000 in legal fees after a Dane County judge rules Assembly Speaker Robin Vos and Michael Gableman violated open records laws in their review of the 2020 election. Judge Valerie Bailey Wynn found the Assembly is responsible for the attorney costs of liberal group American Oversight.
This investigation cost the public more than $1 million. It has not produced any evidence of widespread election fraud. While Speaker Vos cut Gableman's salary in half, from $11,000 a month to $5,500, there were no indications Vos was about to fire the former state Supreme Court justice. Well, that changed over the last couple of weeks. Gableman began to campaign for Adam Steen, the Republican running against Vos in this week's GOP primary. Vos barely survived that election, beating Steen by fewer than 300 votes. In a statement today, Vos says, quote, "After having many members of our caucus reach out over the past several days, it is beyond clear to me that we only have one choice in this matter, and that's to close the office of special counsel. Democrats say it is long overdue."
Speaker Vos never should have hired Mike Gableman in the first place. It's a shame that it took Mike Gableman endorsing against him in a Republican primary to get him to see what we've seen all along, that Gableman was an embarrassment.
Former President Donald Trump had praised both Gableman and Steen at his Waukesha rally last Friday. Trump has pressured Vos to pursue the legally impossible act of decertifying the 2020 election. Republican State Senator Kathy Bernier says their criticism of Vos was unwarranted.
Gableman should have been loyal to Robin, and Trump should have been loyal to Robin. Robin was just trying to get down to the facts and the proof. And there's no loyalty among those people at all, and it's pretty sad.
We did reach out to Gableman for comment this afternoon. He did not immediately respond. Vos says his focus moving forward is having Republicans win the governor's office so they can pass more than a dozen election-related bills that Governor Tony Evers has vetoed over the past 2 years. 27 News has now obtained public records it requested back in August. We wanted billing records related to Michael Gableman's review of the 2020 election. He was hired by Assembly Speaker Robin Vos to lead the investigation. The records we received mostly detail bills from outside lawyers between April, when we last received records, and the July billing cycle. Between April and July, Gableman brought in at least 5 different outside law firms. The bills cover a series of cases, from challenges by a liberal group over whether Gableman properly kept records to his push to have election officials answer questions in private. This batch adds up to $300,000 in legal fees. While the payments to Gableman and his assistant reflect the August cutoff when Vos terminated Gableman's contract, the legal bills are still coming, with multiple cases still open.
The Speaker should put an immediate end to this Office of Special Counsel. He should put an end to this here and now.
Republican State Representative Amy Loudenbeck says she supports the decision to remove Gableman. She says the legal fees are just par for what's become an unfortunate course.
We have had unprecedented litigation in my time serving in the legislature. There are a lot of lawsuits from Republicans and Democrats that I would argue are not the best use of taxpayer dollars.
Over the last 2 months, Dane County judges have ruled Gableman is responsible for the other side's attorney fees, which add up to more than $285,000. That brings total documented costs of the review to more than $1.5 million, more than doubling Gableman's original budget. UW-Madison's Barry Burden says it's an unusual situation, one that appears to still be the public's responsibility.
It does seem to go back to the taxpayer ultimately, and probably out of funds that the legislature controls. Even though the special counsel himself is not working, in the end he was appointed by the state legislature, by the speaker.
In Madison, AJ Bayatpour, 27 News.